Hey, what's up and welcome to this new tutorial that is exclusively to Patreons. Thank you so much for supporting and let's jump right into it. As you can see here, I have a bunch of layers, obviously. This is from the project that I've done recently and I shared. It's this VFX inspired from Brave New World, which is a show that is based on a book that I love so much. And I think Territory Studio did an amazing job. And I thought, why don't I just try to show people how they've done their VFX? So if the way this started was I just wanted to do this. I thought that the idea behind making the badges that shows the level of the human quality was pretty good. It was really well done. So I went in and recreated it. So as you can see, so the way this was done was I started with a very simple letter, which is just a shape letter, and the shape layer has a layer style that is bevel and emboss. That's all. That's all there is to this letter. And as you can see, I added this light sweep, which is later on, and it doesn't really make that much of a difference. So it's just a shape layer. I literally just drew this and I added bevel and emboss. Okay, that is done. I pre-composed it because I want to use it for so many other things, which you're gonna see in a bit. So this is the normal shape layer. So I blurred it, and then I made it appear clear. And then I used the linear wipe so they just, reveals. It's pretty good. Cool. Then what I went and I created these two, which is just a yellow stroke, and it just disappears. Very simple. So scale and stroke width goes off and it's just glow. That's it. All right, that out of the way. What I went and I did, and this is where most of the work was done, was in this optical flare thing. So what's happening here? It's basically, I used optical flare, but not all the flares. I went and I just created these flares here. So I just went and grabbed them. I just went and I grabbed them. If I try to make this smaller, yes. So I just went and I grabbed them from the lens object custom. So as you can see here, I just grabbed this and this and this, and then that's it. I was done. So I was not using any other thing. I was using optical flare just for this. And this is how I use optical flare most of the time. I don't really like to do this transformer kind of lens flares everywhere. No, I don't do that. I just use lens flares for the reasons I need the lens or the flare to be there. So yeah, I just went and I rotated it, literally. I just rotated it. And brightness, that's it. So start from 0 and it goes to 90. That's it. And it just rotates as it reveals. So if we combine this with this, this is what we're gonna have. As this reveals, we're gonna have that rotation. Perfect. Now, if we add the two yellow strokes, nice. And then I felt like there is a little more that I could add into this. So what I did to this was I went and I created, let's just look at this alone. It's just a, what do we call that? It's just a stroke. So this stroke doesn't move, doesn't do anything. But then what I went and I masked a bit of the stroke to just add a little bit of a highlight point. And then I added the full beauty of this, which is the fast box blur. The fast box blur is a blur that you add to give you this glassy blur, the realistic glassy blur. Gaussian blur would not give you the box blur effect. Okay, so the algorithm, the mathematics behind Gaussian blur is not the same as the box blur. Box blur is there to give you that effect of a glass or looking behind something that is covering. Okay, and Gaussian blur is literally just a normal algorithm of a blur. Now, this as simple as it is, and then I just went and I added a linear wipe. So what happened is we have this reveal of that. Okay, then I went and I duplicated it and I made one that is rotating. You see that? I just want to give that shine effect, but doing it using CC Light Swipe will not give me as authentic of a swipe and brightness reveal, that glorious premium look. And that is something that I was saying because I did this on stream, and this is something that I've been saying while I was making this. I'm looking for premium look because this is what the whole show is about, is for a human to look premium to another normal human. And I won't spoil anything, so I was looking for premium look and I wanted this to look premium, and to do this is a bunch of box blur, and you just layer things together in the right way on how you feel it. If you feel that it's premium, then you're probably doing a good job. All right, now let's look at with everything that we have done so far. You see that? That's shiny here. That's what I was really going for. Perfect. And then I did the same thing for the optical flare. I just literally duplicated this layer and offset it a bit and then box blurred it instead of just keeping it as it is. And the reason is I just want to have this effect. If you look at here, you see that? It's that bloom effect. Again, premium look. It's shining, but it's not just glow. It's shining, but it's offset and it's fast box blur. And it just like, bellissimo. It just gives it that really beautiful look. You see that thing behind it? That's exactly what I was looking for. Instead of like, ka-ching, no, it's like, all right. That is done. I went and I added an HDRI studio. Okay. I took off all the details by doing a linear color key. So studio, I took off all the details and then I blurred it so that you don't really know what this is. So I went outside. This is how it looks like normally. If we just look at it alone, this is how it is normally. If I increase this, this is how it is. So what I did was I used this effect called CC Sphere. And CC Sphere will just take anything that you have, just like CC Orbit from Video Copilot. It's actually based off the same concept as CC Sphere. CC Sphere is not a plugin, it's there. It's in After Effects. It's like your Video Copilot plugin has been there all the time. But it just added a lot of beautiful things, which is bump map and stuff like that. So basically, CC Sphere will just spherize anything, literally anything you give it. And then I added this linear wipe. All right, so I'm just gonna bring this back to how it was. And this is what I have. As you can see, it's like a bit of shininess, a little bit of premium behind it. So now, if we put everything together, you get this beautiful thing. So it's very simple techniques, but when layered on top of each other the right way, you get it well. And then I added a little very special trick that I do all the time. And this is my only, my personal, one of the what do we call that, secret tricks that I do all the time is, where is this? Find edges. I love this particular effect because it just saves me so much time and it's my secret recipe kind of thing. So what's happening here? Let's go and take off everything. So this is what I have. Before I do anything, I just took that shape layer, exactly the same, okay? Then I went and I added a find edge. Find edge is an effect that will try to find any edge of your picture, of your letter, of your shape layer, anything. It will try to find the edges. So you don't have to go and trace it. So it just traces it for you. So I did that But the problem here is that I still have that black. So I went and I did a linear color key to remove that black, whatever color that is there, because I just wanted the edges of that letter, because I want to shine it through. And then I added a linear wipe to this, and that is to reveal it just like the others. And I blurred it just like the others. And then it becomes, you know, it's blurred and then it becomes clear just like the others. And then I glowed it, of course. So this way, instead of having a normal reveal like this, you start having a very special reveal like that. Okay, so yeah, that's when it comes to how I created the badge. Now I took the badge, I started with the badge as I said, and then I took this and I downloaded a footage of a woman, literally just a woman laughing like this. This is the footage. And then I was like, oh, what if I create a memory player? And that's the journey that I took. So this is the woman. I brought her in, and then I went and I did a tracking. So I just went to track and stabilize, and I went to track motion. And as you can see, what I did was I took this like this. I put it here on her face, and I just went and I clicked track. That's it. And it tracked everything. And then what I did was I put that tracking information on the badge. So as you can see here, the badge is tracked. So what happened was now this badge is going to be following her face, as you can see. See, when it turns, it perfectly follows her. Great. Now we have that. What I started doing after that was I started adding a bunch of effects that I wanted to do. And one of them was I wanted to show that this is from the perspective of someone with an eye technology, because that's what the whole show is about. Everything is on the eye. So what I did was I added a bunch of displacements going through here. So I'll take you through these displacements. One of them is this one. So let me show you this one. So basically this is just as you can see, it's literally just a sphere, just a stroke, a sphere, and it just scales up. Okay, so when you take this and you put it on this guy as a displacement, you're gonna have this ripple. You see that? You're gonna have this, if you look at here, you're gonna have this ripple effect. And then I went and I stacked the second one. Okay, this one. Let me show you what this is. And this is using the effect called Wave World. And what it does is just gives you a ripple forever. And that's what I did. So I have two waves. And the reason I do this is because if you only use one wave, it's very singular and it just brings it up and it's so standing, it stands to you way too much than it's supposed to do. And that is a no-no. That's why you use this kind of tertiary, secondary concepts that I've taught all over my previous tutorials. It is really important. So when you do an effect, you don't want the effect to be just straightforward. You want to layer it so that it doesn't completely take your attention. And that was the whole point here. So when you look now at the effect, let me just go here. Okay. Now that wave, isn't it too much on your face? Instead of like boom, like a wave, like this is not a nuclear scene. It's literally just someone's eye waking up. So as you can see here, it just wakes up. And this whole thing is just to follow up on something else that I've done, and which is the eye texture. So this is all because of this eye texture. I'm just going to show you the eye texture. So basically what the eye texture is, it's just this thing here that just goes around. And what it does is it just displaces the whole image according to those textures. I'm gonna show you in a bit, as you can see here. See that? Here. So it displaces the whole video according to that. That is said, what I went and did was I added another displacement again. Again, all this just to make sure that, hey, everything is layered properly and you don't really realize that, hey, this is so in your face. It's like, I don't want you to only look at one thing. No, I want you to look at the whole thing. So I don't want anything to disturb you. And I'm pretty sure when you watch this, you probably didn't even realize that. And if you didn't, then I've done my job correctly. And I hope you did, because you didn't, because that means I've done my job correctly. That one said, I went and I created the boom effect. And basically what this is, it's just a very simple, again, this thing here. What this is, it's literally just a shape layer. It's basically just a shape layer with nothing. And then I went and I added a fractal noise. I'm just gonna show you the stack. I did a fractal noise because I don't want a normal shape stroke. I wanted it to be different. So it's just a shape layer that has fractal noise, and then I went and I blurred this because I don't want to have those little small detail. And then I thought that this is too uniform, so I went and I displaced it so it's not too circle-ish. Is that even a word? It's not. So yeah, and I went and I used this as a displacement, as an adjustment layer. And clicking this, what means is that whatever the content of this, it will affect whatever is below it. And as you can see here, you'll see that there is a blur that travels. There is a blur, there is a very subtle blur that travels from the center to the edge of the video. And that was the whole point of this whole boom effects. And the reason is because I've created another boom here that is just a shape layer. You see that? And I've just colored it a bit and yeah, turned down the opacity a lot. Okay, so now what do we have? We have the boom, we have this, we have the displacement, we have the eye texture, yeah. So now we have this, and I felt like, we need a little bit more to this. So one thing for sure is that there's a lot of light, so I need you to focus as your normal eye. It needs to focus on one thing. So I went and I added a vignette so that you only focus on the girl. I'm just gonna go half so that, or third, so that we don't slow. All right. That done, I was like, all right, cool. Even though with the vignette, I still need you to focus here because your eye is not clear on the edge. So I went and I blurred all the edges, and I used the camera lens blur. I actually should have a repeat edge pixel. All right. So now you can only focus on the girl and the center of action. And that is done. I went and I added a bunch of CC. As you can see, this is my normal stack of color correction if you've seen my previous tutorials. So we'll start with a curve just to bring in the blue, as you can see here. It's just to bring in the blue. Literally, the blue is the only thing that was missing from this picture because everything was so red, and I thought that we could bring in the blue a bit. That done, I went and I added level to bring in, because this was dark. So I went and I added a little bit of brightness by taking the brightness value and pushing it a bit to the brightness, to the darkness. After that, I went and I added a little bit of grain What this does is just grain things, so it's not so clear as you can see here. So it looks like it's actually recorded or viewed from a normal eye. So nothing is really clean. Doing this, I went and I added a bit of a sharpness. So as you can see here, sharpness is just to bring in the details that you actually need to care about. That is done. I went and I added a chromatic aberration. As you guys know me, I love this effect a lot. So yeah, it just, what it does is it just, you know, you can offset the values of the blue, the green, and the red. And if you do that correctly, you're gonna have a beautiful effect. And then vibrance is just to add in the colors. It's like saturation and contrast, but for colors. Yeah, that's what I did here. And then, and then I've done something very, very special, and that is the edge detection. Let's look at the edge detection. What is this? I'm just gonna delete all this. What is the edge detection? I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna go and take off everything. So what I did was I took the video and I added find edges. So then I get this. All right, so, you know, I get the edges of her, but it wasn't enough. So I went and I did a linear color key to take off the black here. Okay, so I take off all the, as much as details that I don't need. And then I was like, all right, there's a lot of color, that's not good. So I went and I tinted it with the blue, because blue means hologram, means technology. And then I added a little bit of curve so that I can kill all these details that I don't need, because I only need the real edges of her. So I used curve, and basically what I did was you have this, and if you take down a bit of the brightness, you're gonna take care of a lot of details that you don't need. And then I went and I added a Venetian blind to make this look like it's seen from a screen. So it's just square. All right. And then I added a glow on top of everything. So if we look at this again here, you have a normal, you add a tint, you take off the details that you don't need, you add a Venetian blind, more roughen edges, another Venetian blind to get this, as you can see here, screen looking, and then you add glow to have this beautiful detail. Now, you take this out and you use this with a form. When you use this with form, this is what you're gonna get. All right, so if we can get back to detail, so you're gonna get this beautiful detail, technology like reveal. See that? And then when you put it on top of the video, you're gonna get this detail. And this is something that I've explained on the Gmonk transition tutorial. And this is something that Toros Kose and Gmonk and Ashtorp uses a lot. They don't share this technique, but they use it everywhere they can. And there you go, you have it now. This is exactly what you need to do to get their details. So yeah, that's how I've done this. Is there anything else that I need to explain? 23 minutes. Yeah, let me just explain one more thing. The HUD. So the HUD. What's happening here? This was very simple. I didn't start by animating. I started by creating, okay? So I went to create one circle, I duplicated it, and I turned down the opacity of each circle that goes in. All right? Then I created one. I just created one, and I kept the anchor point in the center of the screen. Reason is I want to just rotate it, animate the rotation. So if we look here, you'll see that I literally just duplicated them, and they're all the same color because I just literally just duplicated them, and I just went and I animated the rotation. So they just rotate around the center, and you think that they're actually rotating on those circles, but they're not. They're just rotating all from the center. Another thing that I've done, basically, this is just position, and as you can see here, It's just position and opacity. Same thing here, position and opacity. This is scale. Same thing here, position, opacity. When it comes to these numbers, I used an effect called numbers, and this effect can help you increase numbers however you feel like you want to do, as you can see here. You can change the color, you can change how many decimal points you want. If you want some, you know, more techie vibes, you can get some decimal points here. And then comes the big, probably, the reason why you're here. It's this thing right here. So what is this? I'm just gonna go and hide this. Okay. So it's literally just a circle with a fast box blur. This fast box blur rotates around the circle to give it that premium look. All right, and then this fast box blur is only applied in this mask. The way I did this was I applied the blur, but it applied everywhere, and then I created a mask, and then I went inside of the effect and I just added plus compositing options, and I chose the mask that I wanted. What this tells After Effects, you'll have this this icon here, and this means that I'm telling After Effects to use this effect not everywhere on the layer, but to only use it on this particular place, all right, of the mask. And if I have a feather on the mask, it's gonna use it there. So yeah, so I have that. This is very straightforward animation. There's nothing so special. Now let's look at let's disable. Let's look at this now. All right, the mood mail. So what this does is it's literally just a sphere that rotates around. All right, scales and rotates around. And then what I went and I did a bunch of stacked layers. Let's look at what are those. So the first thing that I did was I added a little bit of a fast box blur. So what happened is instead of being a sharp sphere, boring, no, you give it a box blur. And then you add color. The reason I did this color, it's because I want to show the change of the mood. So I can literally change the color whenever I feel like it. And then I added echo. Echo is this effect that will repeat, for example, here 26 times this sphere, and it's going to be decayed and it will fade off. And then you see you're going to have these things here. It just repeated and decayed. All right, and then I glowed it just to give it more of a beautiful look. Cool, so what I did was I duplicated this, and this time I added a turbulent display. So this is what we have. And then when you stack them together, you're gonna have like a ghost effect behind it. Perfect. Now, what happened was the moment it scales up, I just went and I added a shape layer, and it just scales. That's it. Like boom. That's it. It's just a shape layer and it just scales. Let's look at how these two were done. The way this is done is very, very straightforward and simple. It's literally not this one. This one. So what I did was I have a stroke. Okay, so I'm just gonna go and take everything off. So I had this. I just duplicated this one that we've created in the beginning. Remember, we just talked about it. So I just duplicated it and added a bigger stroke. It's exactly the same. Okay, added a bigger stroke, and then I added fractal noise on top of it to only show some certain parts. Okay, and it looks more ghosty. And then I added blur on top of this, so you get more ghost color and feeling. And then I added a tree tone. A tree tone is basically like a tint, but you have more control. Tint, you can only control the brightness and the darkness. Tree tone instead, what it does is that it gives you the brightness, the darkness, and the mid-tone, the gray area. You can control that. And that's exactly what I did. So when it's so bright, it's gonna be blue. When it's gray, it's gonna be pink, hence this. And when it's black, I want it to be black. And that's what happened here. So sometimes it tries to get to blue, you know, when it gets really bright, it gets to blue. So you can see here, you can see the spill of color. All right, so you can see here, for example, here, it gets to that purplish blue, and here is pink. Cool, and what I did was chromatic aberration, but I added a lot of chromatic aberration. That's why I said chromatic aberration is such a beautiful technique if used correctly. And that's what I did. I just think used it correctly. Yeah, that's how I created that ghosty look effect. And when alone, it's not gonna look as good as if you screen it on top of a video. You see that? That's the trick for this. Now you'll be like, so how did you create this looking like an eye? Very simple. I added a CC lens effect. Basically, this effect, what it does is it just, if we just solo this, what it does is just tries to recreate your eye look, and that's exactly what I wanted. You can even control how far you want this to be. Yeah. And then we have the big elephant in the room, the last one, which is how did you create that beautiful highlight around her? This one. Let me show you what this is. This normally is this. It's basically a lens distortion footage of a lens distortion. But then what I did, I used it very differently. So what I did was, let me show you. It's basically, I went and I just used a CC lens so that it becomes more of a distorted on your eye, okay? And of course it has 2 masks. All right, so this is what we have now. And then what I did was I added a bit of optics compensation so that I can distort it even more towards the eye. See that? And then I added linear color key to remove all that stupid bluish that was going all around. And then I tinted it to make it go more towards this color of green, which was dominant in the video as well. And then I added a chromatic aberration that is a little bit too high so that it gives me that beautiful extra chromatic, League of Legends-ish chromatic aberration, as you can see here. So it adds in more of that taste. So yeah, that was the VFX breakdown for the Brave New World. If for some reasons things are still unclear, let me know and I'll consider making this as a step-by-step tutorial, like starting from zero, but only if needed. It's gonna take a lot of time for me to do, but yeah, if needed, I'm willing to actually do it, just to thank you for your support and keeping things up. All right. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of how I recreated the Brave New World VFX. My name is Mr. Popo, and we are Popo. I'll see you on the next one.